Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Sam,
And I'm Melissa.
and we're going to continue answering questions about the FLDS religion where I grew up.
And a lot of questions that we had received are about what the arranged marriages were like, if there were celebrations, what their ceremonies were like, all that good stuff. So we will dive right in. And
Let's go.
One of the first questions that we should probably start with is someone asked kind of what the process was like for Warren to decide who was going to be married.
Well, I imagine he sat up on the on the stand and looked down into the congregation and just picked. Wonder who that is. Well, I see that she's sitting with this family. That's her father. I'll contact her father and we'll talk about who she should marry. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up at this point. I don't know exactly how that worked. What I do know is that when a Warren Jeffs or someone that he appointed to contact the family, when he wanted to know a little bit more information about a person, he would, or I guess I should say a girl, he would contact her father and ask questions. And I know that they would call and ask questions like, at what or how old is your daughter? And just, I don't know all the other questions, but just how would you feel about her getting married and that kind of thing. So they would call and talk to her father first when they wanted to learn more about a girl and were wanting to assign her to someone.
I was going to say, from what you understand, would they make that call and then decide whether or not they were going to assign, or was it always just to get more information because they knew that she was going to be assigned?
I assume it was more because they knew.
Okay.
And of course, they would always say that it was revelation from God, and like they did with everything else. And they would say that God wants her to be prepared to get married to so and so, and then they would, I think, out of respect in a way, they would communicate with the father first of the daughter, and just say, "Are you okay with this?"
Yeah.
So anyway, and then they would contact they would contact the man that was going to marry the girl.
The girl.
So they wouldn't contact his father. They would contact him directly.
Were you ever there when your sisters found out that they were going to get married?
Yes.
And what was that like? Were they excited? Were they happy? Were they nervous, scared, sad? What were their emotions when they found out?
I think every emotion you can possibly imagine and put them all together. That's what they felt. Because in a way, I'm sure they were excited. They didn't come across as excited, but I guess you could say, I'm just trying to think back, because the whole time that they are out there growing up as little girls all the way to in some cases they were married as young as teenagers, but anyway, they're growing up, their whole experience, they were taught by their parents how important marriage is and how special it is.
And how important it is to be a wife and mother, right?
Right. So I guess they would have to have some kind of excitement because they're finally fulfilling this huge, amazing thing that their mother had told them their whole life, that it was, their purpose.
But did it look like they were excited?
Okay,
Because it's one thing to think okay, they should be excited because of the fact of of what they've been taught, but when you saw them personally, did they seem excited?
So I guess we'll go into a little story time. So I remember there was actually two of my sisters who got married at the same time to two different men, thank goodness. But we were sitting in the living room in our house, and I don't remember exactly what we were doing at the time, but we were just kind of sitting around as a family and talking and whatnot. And father got a call and he left the room. And then a few minutes later he came back and said, "I would like to talk to you and you, please, two of my sisters." And so they stood up, and of course their faces just went white because I assume they knew something was coming, and of course they're nervous. So they walked out with him into his office and had a conversation. And then there was a conversation with father and whoever was on the phone and my two sisters and their mothers. So then the mothers were involved, and there was a conversation there. And then they all walked out, and got the family together and said, two of your sisters are getting married, and these are the men they're getting married to. And none of us knew who we had never met these men. We didn't know who they were, or we recognized their last name because
they're in the community.
So we knew that they were going to be a part of this family. But and I don't think my parents had any idea who they were either.
I was just gonna ask, did your sisters know the men at all before?
No, not a clue. So they're getting married, and this is they're getting married to. And then it was, I believe, a couple days later, these men came to the home and introduced themselves to the family and said, both of them got married to a man that had already had a wife before them. So anyway, that was definitely quite the experience. But it was, for me, it wasn't so crazy as it would be for anyone else hearing this story, because once again, I was raised that way, and my father had more than one wife, and it just kind of, and I heard stories of when my mother got married, and she wasn't the first wife either, and so I'd heard all of these stories and seen all of these things, and so it was just, another day with the family,
From the time that your sisters heard the news and they looked white as a ghost, which obviously that's a lot of nervousness, but Did they seem to get more excited as the days were coming, or did they seem to get more nervous about the fact that someone was going to come and pick them up to go be married? I know that's a hard question because you were little, huh?
Well, I wasn't that little. I was a teenager, or I was a very young teenager, I guess, at this time. I looking back now, I wish I would have paid closer attention to and cared more about the feelings of my sisters. But to be honest, I wasn't really paying that close attention to how they felt.
That's fair.
But I did definitely see, for the times where I was paying attention, I saw that they were very nervous. But they're marrying someone they had never met. Why? Yeah. How wouldn't you be nervous? So definitely they were nervous, but they seemed okay. I didn't see them ever rushing back home with tears or anything that I personally saw. Whether they did that or not, I don't know. But they.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. But anyway, they were married, and I know they had children with these men. So where they're at today, I don't know. I don't have a whole lot of contact with the family anymore. But I have heard rumors that there has been split-ups amongst those families as well. So,
are there celebrations? Like, was the family invited to the wedding? Or how does that work? So the guys come, introduce themselves. Do they just take your sister and then she's just gone?
They come back around to visit.
But I mean, as far as a ceremony.
But as far as ceremony, yeah, no. So, as far as I'm aware, and I don't know if every single wedding was the same. Someone from out there may comment on here and say actually it was different for them, and that's perfectly fine. It may have been different for different people, but I know with my experience and within my family, it was always just a very small thing. The parents were there, and of the husband and wife, their parents were there, and then the prophet of the church was there, and a couple other leaders of the church were involved, and I believe it was typically at the offices of the church, and they just met there, and there was some type of ceremony, and then that was that. They were married. But before they got married, in the experience that I saw, and with my own siblings, they would introduce the husband and wife to be to each other, and then they could actually go and spend some time getting to know each other, not sexually obviously, but just talking and getting to know each other before they got married.
So they were able to have a couple days of breaking the ice a little bit before you just
that's what it seemed like, a couple days, a week, whatever it was, but it wasn't long. It was just a little bit. So I remember one of my brothers took the I guess he came by the house with the girl that he was going to be marrying and said, hey, this is so-and-so, this is who I'm going to get married to. We're getting married in a couple of days. For now, we're just driving around the town, talking, getting to know each other. Looking back now, I'm just I'm blown away by the whole thing, of course. Even though I grew up that way, after being out for as many years as I have, it just seems so crazy, even though that's the way
we got married quick, but compared to what
and we got to know each other before beforehand, a little bit more than they got to for sure. But anyway, so that's basically the to sum it all up. That's the way it was out there. Everything was arranged, and it was just a very small ceremony with a couple people there, and then they were married. Yeah.
Wow. Well, if you guys want to hear more stories about what it was like for Sam growing up in the FLDS religion and polygamous community, please like and subscribe and leave any more questions that you have below in the comment section. We love questions. That's where we continue to make our videos from. So,
yes, thank you all, and we will talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.